Hey, this is John from Well Met. You're listening to Concede.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 89 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. My name is Kenny, and I go by KCCO Gamer. And all the way from Thunder Bluff, Louisiana, we have Cinder.
Buenos dias.
And from Undercity, Georgia, we have Appa.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey. And joining us from Gadgetstan, New York, we have Ridiculous Hat.
Hello.
Welcome, guys. So glad to have another show happening this week. And get to talking Hearthstone. But you want to talk about our weeks this week? Let's start with our last one here. Hat. Ridiculous Hat.
What's up? My week has been, I think I've actually done more coaching than playing. It's been hectic at work as always, but I'm hovering around rank 8, trying out the Acolyte Burn Mage I found on Reddit. I'm not sold on the Doomsayers, but I like the Acolytes. I'm thinking about going back to Control Paladin because the win rate is good, but the wins per minute is lacking. Deck is really good, but the games take a little while, and the only way to speed them up is to make snap plays, and that's bad. So, it's I haven't put as much time into Hearthstone as I wanted to. I have some time budgeted this next week to sit down and play, so I'm hoping to really grind out some stars.
Speaking of long games, Cinder, I heard you had some long games on ladder this week.
Yeah, well, I think the sessions felt long. I actually did. I got up to rank 5 on stream on Saturday, which was amazing because for the bulk of the stream it was 50-50, and then I just hit a sprint at like the last 5 games and got there. Then like Sunday, Monday, the rank 5 wall was super real. And I had a little meltdown on Monday night, and Blister Guy, our friend from Walk to Work, he tweets at me. He's like, "Hey man, Nick Chipper is running a double Dynamancy list," and I was like, thinking face, and I queued it up, and I've been playing it since Monday night, and I am almost at rank 3, and that deck is actually super good right now. I don't know why. I have some thoughts on it, but Dynamancy is working.
We'll have to add that to our deck in our show notes.
Yeah, like it's not mine though. Like if I forget to post it, just look up Nick Chipper's Twitter and look at his most recent Hunter deck. It's that one with the 2 Dynamancies.
All right, cool. And Appa, what about you?
I've had a pretty miserable month on ladder, honestly. I also had a little bit of a meltdown like a week and a half ago, where I was just hard stuck at rank 15 with no stars, just losing over and over over again. And I had to really consider if I wanted to continue playing Hearthstone. It got that bad. It was not a fun time. When I got up to the rank 10 floor, and I got stuck there for a while. But I scraped my way out of it, and I'm at rank 8 right now, and climbing with Paladin and Priest, because those are my 2 golden classes left to get.
Nice. I am actually 5 away from my golden warrior.
Get there.
I'm
so
almost
close.
there. I've been playing it. We were in the car. She was kind of wanting to check out some houses we were looking at. So house shopping, I was like, all right, let's queue up some games. And I just got up to rank 8 off of a couple wins from playing against a control shaman with my pirate warrior. So that was I was fully expecting after winning him a second time in a row one of those invites that was going to be pretty cool. But I had one of those this week. I was surprised. I usually don't. I was doing chores and also just trying to complete quests on ladder, and someone got really mad at me roping. He was playing a quest rogue, and I guess he wanted to get some quick games in.
You're gonna get some quick games with Quest Rogue, which is probably the highest skill ceiling deck in the meta right now.
Oh my gosh, it was amusing to say the least. I mean, I say we were even. It was just the fact that I was taking long because I was in the middle of doing stuff. I'm a busy guy. Yeah, I don't know, but I got a free win out of it. He didn't coin concede though. I wish he did.
Yeah.
But yeah, rank 8 right now in wild. Once I get my quests out of the way and my warrior at golden, then I'll start playing some of the decks I've been wanting to play on standard. Probably do some secret mage and the aggro druid decks. So that's my plan. I haven't done any coaching. I don't think Appa really hasn't had time to do any coaching. Did you do any?
No, I just got around to getting the list of people I need to email.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get
on
that
behalf
sent
of
out.
Appa and I, we've been pretty busy. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
we are in contact. We have the entire month. I have 4 people, but Appa can knock them out pretty quick, actually.
Yeah.
And then Hat said he's been doing some more coachings and playing. So let's hear that.
Yes, I hit 3 people this past week. I got 5 more this upcoming week. I got Manksu, Nico from Finland. That was a lot of fun. The time zone was a little funky, but we had a really good run with Burn Mage. We went 6-2, and then I got that was a lot of fun. And Burn Mage has been the deck. I actually coached Manksu and Torland last night. And Torland, just for you, Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Oh.
Yeah, I have a bunch of non-Alabama affiliates here, and I am very much not from Alabama, but, you have to say it. But he is... We practiced Burn Mage with both of them, and it was interesting that both of them started off in a kind of controlling mindset, but it turns out that deck is secretly really aggressive. All you have to do is get to the point where you're not going to die before they're going to die, and then you just put up Ice Block and throw it at their face. And I know Appa has a lot to say about Ice Block. He's a real big fan of that card, so we'll get to that later.
It's my favorite.
I feel like you're saying the opposite of what you mean for comedic effect. And then also yesterday I coached Floral, Lost Adrift, NY, and let me tell you, that guy is all about having fun in Hearthstone. We played Wild Reno Hunter, and that was pure gasoline. Oh my god, it was so good. And he had just made a N'Zoth because he was like, oh man, I want to own a N'Zoth, but it's going to rotate out. Wait, I'm playing Wildcraft. So he made it, and so we put together a N'Zoth, a low curve N'Zoth deck, except it also had, Sylvanas, of course, and Ragnaros. And we played against a priest that set their health to 40 twice, and we easily killed them both times. It was fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's been a good week so far. And this upcoming week, I have Drunken Monk, I have Fumbles, I have Esperoth, and I think Samurai Flea as well. And then I'm gonna get who's my last person mid game right after the day after the cast, and I should get Starlax next week as well.
You're gonna have a fun time with Drunken Monk. I actually
yes.
coach him weekly, on the side. But he wanted to get your input on a coaching session too.
Yeah.
So he's a good dude. He's fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to coaching all these people because the great thing about coaching is that we all know each other already because we're all in our extremely active Discord. So it's like, let's just hang out with our friends and play Hearthstone and talk about the game for an hour.
Right? Yeah. I all my coachings are later this month just because people have real life going on. But I'm excited because this is my first time coaching Viriatus and Big Crazy Gamer both, and I've heard great things about them.
Oh my god, they're so great.
Coaches. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, Crazy Gamer.
You're gonna have a good time.
Oh man, last time we played, we beat a Quest Rogue with Lightspawn Priest. That was fantastic. Oh, it was so good.
I actually enjoy those that are scheduling a rotation. They're like, I just want to rotate through everybody. They don't have any preference. I think that's probably a really good idea too, just to get other people's input. But yeah, I it's also a good way for us to get to know you. I would say at least do one round between all of us, and then, if you like someone's style of coaching better, then perfect. At least you've seen all of us and can make an informed decision on what you would like to learn. And we all have something different. So say I want to learn something more control, then I would go with one person over another. And it's fun to get to know our people. We call them our I don't know, what do we call them?
Our patrons.
Oh, you took the easy way out.
Our friends.
Our grim
All right.
patrons.
So
They're pretty happy. I don't know.
anything else you want, Cinder? Did you want to talk about any?
Of the I didn't do any coaching this past week, so.
Okay. All right, so let's move on. We got speaking of coaching, we do have our Patreon. They just revamped their website.
Yeah.
It's their 4th year anniversary today, I think. But yeah, patreon.com/CoinConcede. We do like everyone that supports us, but that does help get us moving along, and actually this we have a lot of costs coming up for the website and everything all up front here, so it's kind of perfect timing for all of this to be going somewhere, and then hopefully from then on we can start working towards some goals for live events. Hopefully if we have people at an event, say in Atlanta or at BlizzCon, or we'll have something to give away to people. Hopefully we'll get to that point. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I do want to say a big thank you to Daniel B, Noah L, Michael B, and Daniel H for their new pledges this week. Just a couple people, we keep going.
NBD.
But we really are genuinely gracious for everyone that is supporting us. As far as the new people, before we can actually collect on it, I think some people are so anxious to get into the coachings. We can't quite do it yet. We have to plan for the entire month, and it's just hard to squeeze people in. So we will get you into the rotation for when Patreon actually pays out for it, and that way we can actually schedule for it and get you in the rotation. We have some other ideas coming up. Oh, that reminds me, we did have a public announcement last week. So big shout out to Mike Sopko, or Psych Mopko as we put it, for the raffle. For those that did get back to us, we had 2 people that did. I'm surprised there weren't more, but maybe it's just the fact of having to go the extra step to do the raffle. Yeah, so he donated his coaching, and in fact, he had a past couple of coachings this month that haven't been taken advantage. So we're gonna go ahead and give it to the 2 people that did it. So we have Hacksaw5506 on Twitter and MarsPad420. So congratulations, you 2. We'll be in contact with you soon.
Yay!
It's necessary.
It's such a long ramp up to it.
It really is.
So yeah, that's congratulations, you guys. Will be in contact with you. We'll probably send out a direct message on Twitter or something and figure out who your coaches are. Let's jump into the news. I jokingly put this in the news, but
it's in there.
I am so
read
excited. Now. I got a new mouse. And then, man, it makes a big difference when you're roping on quests, and it just dies on you. Not doesn't die. It just freezes. So you have to unplug it and replug it. Nope. I was done with that. So I got a new mouse. I'm super happy, and we can move on. So. I wasn't supposed to stay in there. I was supposed to delete it.
That's a good way to fireball your own face with a mouse that just stops connecting at random times.
Oh my gosh.
And now I'm tilted.
I've done that so many times on mobile. I've just started dragging it, and then my finger either slipped or it hit a crack on the screen. I was like, all right, 6 your face. Oh no.
It sure gets your heart pumping.
No.
You have to assert dominance.
Yep, it's all about sending a message.
Yeah.
So for those of you that actually were interested, I got the Razer Mamba. It was just what I liked. I have a Mac, so worked with Mac. I stuck with Razer. But I appreciate everyone that was giving suggestions for a mouse in our Discord. So next in the news, kind of just wanted to not go in depth with it, but Ben Brode actually had mentioned the initial design of Curse of Naxxramas and put up like a sheet that had like a spreadsheet of what each card was when they were working through it. So it was very interesting to see what some of those cards were before it actually came out. There weren't as many death rattles. There were hints of other cards like Shatter and Plague in that set, I guess. So
Haunted Creeper was straight up nuts.
It was pretty good for a
Really
while.
fixed it.
Yeah, it was a good card.
And Shade of Naxxramas was a
Haunted
4/1/1.
Creeper actually, I'm not sure if you guys know this, it turned out to be pretty good anyways.
Yeah, but
Yeah, it was still good. Like I feel like the Egg Napper has kind of taken its place, its spiritual successor, and it's still good too. I've been using it in multiple decks.
I do have 2 golden creepers, haunted creepers. But it's very interesting to see that they had the Shade of Naxxramas was a 4/1/1.
yeah,
That was kind of crazy.
a little less good.
To think that it changed since then. But yeah, go check it out. We have a link in the show notes. And also we have some news, some Concede news. I'm going to have Cinder share this because he knows a lot more about it than I do.
Yeah, so we as everyone who's been listening knows, we hit our Patreon goal for a community tournament or a community competition, and I spent some time this past week going through all of the feedback that we got. We got a lot of feedback on it, and I took the most common desires of the players who filled out the survey, and I've built a competition in Battlefy. It is after the show drops this week, I'm going to publish it. We're going to post it in the Discord. We're going to put it in the show notes. We're going to put it on the website, so you can go to that Battlefy link and sign up. We're going to do group stages, 4 weeks of matches, and then on the 5th week, we're going to have a single elimination bracket with the top 8. And the winner will get a prize of something small but meaningful to get everybody super interested in it. So if you have 4 decks in standard, you can do this. And now this is going to be primarily NA, depending on how many people we get sign up from Asia Pacific and from Europe. We may just put together like a one-day tournament because we don't have as many listeners, but we'll see how many people we get. And I'll have people helping me in those regions as well to admin the event there. And it's going to be you'll have 1 week to get your 2 games in every week, like the entire, like from Saturday to Sunday, or Sunday to Saturday rather. You know what I mean? 7 days. But Saturday night is going to be our community game night. So if you're in the league or if you're not and you just want to watch, we are going to be in the Discord talking with the people who are in games, and we're going to feature games being played for the league on our stream, and so 2 or 3 of us will be casting it. Whoever's going to be there, mostly me, probably Hat, probably Appa, maybe Kenny. If we're lucky, maybe Cora will show up. But we just talked to her today. We know exactly how busy she is, so may not happen. But yeah, we're going to cast your games on our Twitch channel, and we're just going to have a great time playing games together. So if you're a patron, you get a couple of things for sure. It's open to everybody, but if you're a patron, you are guaranteed entry because we're going to cap it at 32. And if we get more than 32, the patrons get in first. And if you are a patron and you're playing on game night, we are going to stream your games first before we go to anybody else. So as soon as that link drops this week,
that's any patron, so any amount.
Any patron, yeah. No, it's not going to go by seniority or dollar amount. Just like if you are a patron, you're going to get entry into the event for sure. So keep an eye out for that link. We're going to be our first Saturday night is going to be, I think it's June the 29th. Is that Saturday? Let me look at my calendar here. No, that's not it. It's going to be July the 1st. July the 1st will be our first game night. So keep an eye out for that.
It's easy to remember.
Super excited.
I'm excited for the little extra thing there we're going to do for at the end there.
Oh man! So we talked about a surprise for the end of the tournament.
Oh yeah!
Boy, it's going to be fantastic. But we can't talk about it yet.
No, we can't talk about it. But there is. We're going to do something tangible to give away. But we're also going to do something else for the winner.
Yes.
And it's going to be awesome.
Oh,
it's super sweet.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You can see that we're all like, we're hoping one of us cracks so we can talk about it, but we're all holding strong. Yeah, like that.
So, perfect. I like what this actually came to. That worked out really well, hearing from everybody and being able to decide on how to implement it. I wish I could be a part of it every week and do that as a player. So I hope a lot of you take advantage of it and we fill it out pretty quick. Anything else you guys want to mention on news, just in passing? That pretty much does it here.
Yeah.
All right. Then we'll kick it over to Cinder.
It's the grand tournament.
Well, this week we definitely are going to talk about Hearthstone Global Games, but first...
Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do?
Department of Corrections for Cinder. Cinder has been a bad boy. Our friend of the show, Blister Guy, who is also the host of the Walk to Work podcast, correctly pointed out my error that Mage HS, Mage who won the spring playoffs for the Asia Pacific region, he is not from Australia. He is from New Zealand. So
Big difference.
Yeah, I am bad at reading flags, and they have similar flags. My fault. Thank you, Blister Guy, for the correction and for not figuring out a way to knife me through the internet, because I felt like that was a possibility. And also, a listener and a new patron of ours, Michael B., very keen on the ear, he pointed this out to me. In the Hearthstone group stage, I was going off of information from a popular website that follows competitive Hearthstone, because I don't watch the full cast. I usually watch the main matches, and I don't get to see the full, because I work 40 hours a week. And the website that I was referencing, their bracket, said that the top 2 advance from each group. Well, actually, the top 3 advance from each group. So the good news, though, here is that these groups got a lot more interesting this week, because there's still a lot of third place finishes that had to be decided through matches this week. So we're going to talk about that right now. Hearthstone Global Games, days 27 through 29. We are in the last days of Hearthstone Global Games. We're going to start right with the 2 matches from last Thursday. Philippines defeats Belarus 3-1. This actually puts Philippines above Croatia and Belarus on tiebreakers. They were all 2-3, and they advance in third place out of a very difficult Group H. Taiwan sweeps Turkey 3-0. Turkey had a very strong start to the global games, but Taiwan really came out of the gate strong. This actually eliminates Turkey from contention for third place advancement. Taiwan advances, but their position will depend on other matches in Group G. New Zealand sweeps Russia, this Russian team that was just the juggernaut of the HGG in the first few weeks. 3-0. The New Zealand sweep actually vaults them into first place and guarantees advancement. And this stunning loss actually drops Russia to 4th place, and they are eliminated. So Russia, who was almost all but guaranteed to advance, possibly in first place, are now out of the running. New Zealand will advance along with Austria and Argentina. Austria, the surprise team out of that group. Singapore defeats Poland 3-2. Singapore in 3rd place and positioned to advance. Poland is now eliminated. Mexico can win the group with the match win tomorrow night that Cora will be casting. But they will advance regardless. And we talked last week about Israel needing a 3-0 against Italy. Well, they did what people thought were impossible. Israel swept the last undefeated team in HGG, Italy. This unbelievable set of games. They actually get vaulted ahead of Italy and take first place in their group. So they're in first place now. Guaranteed advancement for sure. So the last couple games will decide where they land. But Israel, amazing win just today. And Kara Cute from the Philippine team, she noted that all of these matches, with the exception of Israel, Italy, were elimination matches of importance for Southeast Asia, and every Southeast Asia team won. So Southeast Asia had a really strong showing this week. And today's matches, Hungary defeats Slovakia 3-2. Hungary needed a win to get through, or else Hong Kong would advance. So Hong Kong is now actually eliminated from contention. Hungary will advance in that group. France goes up 3-2 over Denmark. Denmark needed 3-0 sweep to have any chance of advancing. They got up 2-0 on France, but they dropped game 3 on an Evolved Shaman versus mid-range Paladins. and France ultimately swung the series to win 3-2. So Denmark in Game 3 lost their chance, but they ended up losing the set as well. Canada versus Kazakhstan. Both of these groups in both this and the France-Denmark game were in Group F. Malaysia had already advanced in the group, so these two matches and 3 teams were super important. They're going to settle the exact position of what happens. Canada wins 3-1 over Kazakhstan. Canada's win secures first place. Malaysia will be in second place, and Belgium is in third place thanks to Denmark's game and match loss. Switzerland defeats Brazil 3-2. Brazil was already guaranteed to advance, but a win would give them first place. So they lost that set. So Bulgaria actually takes the group. Peru versus the United Kingdom. This is the hot match for today. All eyes were on this match because Romania, who needed a sweep previously to stay in contention, needed a little bit of help from Peru to stay in. All Peru had to do was lose one game. They could win the series. All they had to do, 3-1 would be fine, 3-2 would be fine. Either result, Romania advances. Well, Peru sweeps the United Kingdom 3-0. And Romania loses third place. They are now out of the race thanks to this set. Peru's 3-0 actually vaults them over both Romania and Thailand, so they end up stealing third place spot in the group. And RDU, the captain of the Romanian team, he took to Twitter and all but accused the UK team and George C. specifically of throwing this match just to spite them because the UK is already out of contention and George C. not known to be a well-mannered sir. So there's a lot of drama going on Twitter regarding this specific match. The only two games remaining are China and Indonesia and Mexico versus Vietnam. The China-Indonesia match will decide who advances in third place behind Brazil and Bulgaria. And Mexico-Vietnam, Mexico is simply playing to see if they can secure first place.
Sorry, I was muted.
Don't do that.
I think you mispronounced Kazakhstan. I think you meant to say Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, sorry. I just had to point that out.
Fair enough. A little bit more competition to touch on. The Star Series Season 3 just happened recently. It's an invitational, so we tend to glaze over it, but I will note that Zalay had a very difficult series of sets to get through. He got third place in group, which put him into a secondary last chance bracket, which he had to win in order to get into the playoffs. Long road, but he ended up winning the entire series. This is Zalay's first huge win in his career. He's done a ton of work, and he puts out a lot of content. So congrats to him for the win. I know Golden Wisp will be covering that tournament in depth, so definitely check them out if you want to listen in on that. And then the last thing we're going to talk about here today is the Titanar Open International. Titanar is a fairly new esports organization. They operate out of China, but since they opened, they kind of made the commitment to have all their tournaments have an international stage. They want both Chinese players and world players to play together, and this isn't usual in China. China generally, is insulated from the rest of the world. Well, Titanar is trying to open the doors and get other players into both the world stage and to Chinese esports. So they have the Titanar Open International. It's a tournament with online qualification tournaments in a China and a world division. They both of them play 7 rounds of Swiss and do a top 8 cut. The top 8 of either tournament goes into the LAN finals, which will happen in China later on in July. Now, from the Swiss for the world stage, this happened last weekend. There were the 8 players that advanced were names that we recognize for the most part: Phenomeno, Rage, Astrogation, Naaman, Mage, Nostum, Katsukuri, and this last name I took note of, Chongfer. So those previous 7 names known, Chongfer not known except by me. I actually recognize Chongfer because he and I are both patrons of the Vicious Syndicate Data Reaper project, and they have a private patron chat, much like we do for our patrons, and Chongfer and I have spoken before. So his story is actually super interesting. He's a data analyst and a practice partner for the Singaporean EVOS esports team, which is Katsukuri, Sequinox, XNVX. He is not Axel, the Pandorica, and Crumpled. Again, names that are recognized in Southeast Asia. He had a couple of high finishes in regional majors, but this is really his first major win as a player, and it was on an international stage, not just Southeast Asia. For his lineup selection, he counted the population of each deck in the APAC Spring playoffs and created a matchup matrix using the Vicious Syndicate data exclusively. Like Appa and I, when we do tournament prep, we look at all sources, maybe weighting Vicious Syndicate more, but Chunkfer only used Vicious Syndicate data. From there, he just took the best 4 decks based on the expected win percentage, based on expected population, decided on the best ban after choosing his decks, and then picked his opener at random in each match. And he ended up going 7-0 in Swiss, 3-0 in brackets, 10-0 tournament record, doggone near perfect play the entire time. He and his teammate Katsukari both advanced to the finals, and Chunkfer won in 5 games. But this is a super interesting story because it's somebody who, for the most part, was just a behind the curtains kind of person. He supported other players, and he decided to go for it and just used his own data from Vicious Syndicate and did a spreadsheet and came up with a very basic level 1 lineup, but it worked perfectly.
I really like the fact that just how he went about and did that. He ends up helping a lot of others. I think he's like a practice partner, right? And I remember you telling us when you heard about this, you wanted to mention. I think that's really cool to kind of know the backstory of him too. You're not going to get that on other podcasts, by the way.
No, yeah, maybe. I hope somebody picks up the story because it's really super interesting because it shows that the importance of the people behind the people. Like it. In fact, this year has been kind of a run of those people making it through the HCT, of people who have practiced with other known players and are finally getting their chance. And Chunkfer is getting his as well.
I think Hat's been too busy to watch, and Appa's been too busy, so they're pretty quiet.
Yes, I mean, I'll be honest. I catch up on my tournaments by listening to Cinder.
Yeah,
same.
Yeah.
For the most part.
There you go.
But this guy's super cool. I'm in the Vicious Syndicate chat because I've written a couple articles for them, and they're all really proud of the effort he put together. It's not just read across the matchup chart and pick the 4 best decks, right? He ran some calculations and all that, just using the Vicious Syndicate data as a base for his analysis. But it turns out that data is super accurate and relevant, and they come with such a huge pool of games that it worked out in guiding his lineup towards these are the 4 best decks right now. There's not really one counter that beats all of them. And you know what? This is what we've been talking about in both on this podcast and other podcasts. What a lot of people talk about is it's not about outsmarting the metagame. It's about being good with good decks. And then once you get beyond that level of, if you're super high legend, right, you can play something a little wonky and it can be right. But most of the time winning is just playing the best decks well.
That's exactly what he did.
Good on him. Anything coming up you want to talk about?
Well, if anybody's watching live, you should watch the last 2 matches for HGG tomorrow. Not only because Cora's casting, but because at the very least one of them has finishing implications. But then we'll have the second group stage of HGG starting up just after that, and Spring Championships in China coming up soon in a few weeks.
Cool. All right, let me talk about a couple reviews. We had one for iTunes and one for Stitcher. The first one here, so they titled it "A Top Podcast to Help Elevate Your Game." This is by Samurai Flea. He's one of our patrons, one of our guys that are in dude. Good dude. Wrote a lengthy one. It's good to hear other people's insight on what they get from the podcast too. So I'll try and read this quick. Concede is one of the best Hearthstone podcasts in the market. All of the hosts are incredibly knowledgeable and also have fun with the show. Kenny's fantastic as the lead host. He's great at setting up other hosts and playing to their strengths, all while keeping the show moving. Cinder, Appa, and Ridiculous Hat all bring high-level expertise, but are able to bring things down in ways to help you learn the game better, whether it's through specific decks or cards, or just overall mindset on how to approach ladder. All 4 guys do a great job of complementing each other's strengths and personalities. Cora, too. I miss her on the show, but I'm happy for her success as a caster. While the podcast itself is great, their Discord server is what really brings it all together. They have done an amazing job building an inclusive, supportive community who are always eager to help others improve their game and partake in an 80 gold quest here and there. And just chat about Hearthstone or anything else that comes up. Plus, they have a channel dedicated to sharing pictures of your dogs. That was just something that was randomly put out there, but he said, "Doesn't get better than that. Keep up the great work, guys." Samurai Flea.
Yeah, our patron and Discord regular Esperoth said, "Can we have a channel just for posting dog pics?" And I said, "Yes, you can."
It's
So there you go.
maybe one of the best perks that we've added to the Discord, and it was already pretty lit. But like, you click this channel and there are puppies.
Yeah, are you having a bad day? Go to Doggo's Puppers pictures.
Are you tilting?
Scroll up.
Just go.
Yeah. Alternatively, are you having a good day? Well, look there anyways, because puppies are great.
Yeah.
And
All right.
if you post pictures of not dogs, you just call them cat
Dogs.
puppers.
Yeah.
Or,
I think
Scaly
there was,
dogs,
yeah, there was a
or-
lizard that was definitely a scaly puppy.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and then we had a Stitcher interview too. So thank you for the Stitcher. I'm surprised there aren't too many people that listen on Stitcher, but I'm glad that they left a review. They titled it "Your Path to Enlightenment," and this is from
Silence?
Silence. Yeah,
Silence?
Silence. Spelled differently, but also from the USA. As far as Hearthstone podcasts are concerned, this show is freaking legendary. Excuse the pun, but it has everything covered: tournament news, deck building, funny banter, and a kick butt Discord. A special shout out to Ridiculous Hat for helping me with fine tuning a deck that I have been running around at rank 20. Just got to 17 and 2 stars late last night with it.
Heck yeah.
I always enjoy hearing people do well with our suggestions and even from just listening, just help elevating their game, to borrow the title of the from Samurai Flea here. But thank you both very much for your reviews. We do enjoy your reviews and hearing your feedback. I may not read long ones like that again, but they summarize.
Yay.
Sorry to take up time, guys. Let's kick it over to our explanations.
Okay, so this explanations is kind of spurred by the Discord, because we have a section of Discord called Questions for the Cast. By the way, if you're not in Discord, get in there. It's awesome. And somebody was asking about Priest and like what we might see moving forward with Priest. I was thinking about doing this for a little while anyways, but this kind of pushed me in that direction even more. We're going to break down all of the playable basic and classic cards for each class, and we're going to see why some classes struggle during rotations, and why some classes don't, like why we don't see some classes as much as others. So how should we do this? Should we go through each class and then just talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, it's like I think we all kind of have our strong classes that we can comment on probably.
Okay, so for Druid, we have Innervate, Savage Roar, Wild Growth, Swipe, Druid of the Claw, Wrath, Nourish, and Ancient of War. So this makes for 8 playables, and important things to note are none of these are like super powerful other than Innervate and Wild Growth. That's kind of like the reason you play Druid, is those two cards. Like they're just carrying the class super hard.
Yeah, totally.
So, and it's worth noting, if you add pre-nerf Ancient of Lore, pre-nerf Force of Nature, pre-nerf Keeper of the Grove, and Azure Drake to this list, you have a deck list. That's called Mid-Range Combo Druid. And part of the reason why Force part of the reason all those cards got nerfed is because it was getting extremely difficult to print cards for Druid, because you were playing all classic cards, and to be better than those was to be dangerous for the game, because they were already so good. So they had to reduce the power level, and Broad has gone on record as saying Classic is the most powerful set ever designed, and he's right. So over time, a lot of these cards are going to have to be depowered a little bit, but Druid, I think, was probably the biggest defender of Classic only being the best deck in the game, or at least in contention for it. And so they were kind of in a hole. Remember when they were trying to make Beast Druid a thing for like up to and including right now? And it still isn't a thing, because you're still just competing with these really, really powerful classic cards, and they had to take 4 of them out. one of which was Azure Drake, which, a little different, but.
Like Innervate is literally cheating. Anytime somebody wants to start brand new, I usually recommend Druid as one of their starter classes because Innervate is so unbelievably strong. Especially like when you're in that newbie range of like 25 to 20, like just being able to just cheat 2 mana and get 2 turns ahead, or with Wild Growth and just skip it to your next turn altogether. It's very powerful effects. Cheating mana is good.
Yeah, Innervate is in my top 2 cards that should be changed or rotated to Hall of Fame that are super not okay.
Yeah, I think they could change Innervate and still keep it around. Like, messing with mana is a cool thing. So, they just need to work on it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to take the reins on Hunter here?
Yeah, I can definitely talk about Hunter. So Hunter's evergreen cards of note: Animal Companion, Kill Command, Tundra Rhino, Houndmaster, Scavenging Hyena, Unleash the Hounds, Eaglehorn Bow, and Savannah Highmane. So if you look at these cards, if you lay them out, you will notice that outside of the Scavenging Hyena, there are no minions before turn 4. Animal Companion is a spell, so that it has actually been relevant in the past. So like Animal Companion is like the first solid just play that the class has. So every set it has to rely on decent cards being printed in the 1 to 2 range, either class or non-class. So that's why it has at times gotten kind of hot and cold. Like when they had Glaive Zuka, got real good, and then when they lost Glaive Zuka, got real bad. Like the Kindly Grandmother was definitely a gem that kind of brought Hunter back into relevance. And you see that happen with a lot of classes where it's just the one drop, a strong one drop, Tunnel Trog looking at you, can really make or break an entire class. So yeah, Hunter is one of those classes that definitely depends on the rotation. But like Kill Command will almost always be in every deck because it's 3 mana, 5 damage, very flexible, good card. Tundra Rhino, hot and cold, depends on the meta. Like I'm in the Dynamancy deck, it's actually been really, really good. But there's been times where it hasn't seen play at all. Houndmaster is a very important power spike card for Hunter. You will probably see Houndmaster in almost every Hunter deck into eternity. As long as they keep printing beasts for Hunter, Houndmaster will always be a thing. Scavenging Hyena, important synergistic card, usually finds its way into lists. Unleash the Hounds, important board fighting tool for Hunter who has no AoEs. Has never gotten an AoE outside of like Grievous Bite, if you want to even call it an AoE. Explosive Shot, which was Power Shot cards were never played because they're just not that good.
Explosive Trap?
Explosive Trap, okay, we
That's
call
what
that.
I would consider, yeah. Yeah, Explosive Trap.
Eaglehorn Bow is really important for Hunter for the same reason that Rallying Blade got real important for Paladin, because having access to 3 damage as an answer on turn 3 is extremely important. Like being able to fight for board against stuff that has 3 or less health, super, super important, because Hunter is always going to try to seize the board and not give it up and just kind of like curve in and weave in hero power shots.
This
and then
should show you how good Fiery War X is also.
Right. It is so good. Like we'll even take it a turn later. It's that good. And then Savannah Highmane, it's probably one of the strongest minions in the game still, at least in the rare slot, in that mid-game slot. It's hard to remove. It threatens a lot of damage. And it's one of those. It's a cornerstone card for most Hunter decks. So like, yeah, that gap, the 2 gaps, the 1 and 2 gap, and then like the turn 5 gap for Hunter is really why Hunter is feast or famine when it comes to expansions. So if they want to keep Hunter in the radar, they're going to keep printing stuff to play in turns 1, 2, and 5 that will get rotated in and out.
And I think Highmane is one of the better design cards in the game. It's iconic. It represents Hunter as a class. It is probably one of the best offensive threats in the game. It is complete garbage on defense. And it really represents what the Hunter class is meant to stand for. You can make the argument for there should be some kind of control or tempo archetype for Hunter, like if you play Dynamancy or something. Hint, hint, hint. But Highmane represents what the class is trying to do, and it is very, very powerful if you're ahead, and does nothing if you're behind. I really like the slot it takes up in Hunter, because it's the steady shot. That's what that hero power is meant to do. If you're going to win with it, it's really good. And if you're behind on board, 2 damage to their face doesn't do anything. So I like that it's in line with the class identity and is one of the most iconic cards in the game.
Cool. You want to cover Mage?
I can cover Mage. So here's the thing about Mage, is that Mage in Arena, I'm going to start with this, has gotten nerfed in Arena multiple times because all the classic Mage spells are broken. They are really, really powerful, and either efficient spot removal, efficient wide removal, efficient minions, or card draw, or the occasional win condition. So we got 13 cards. Arcane Intellect, Fireball, Flame Strike, Frost Nova, Frostbolt, Polymorph, Water Elemental, Mana Worm, Sorcerer's Apprentice, Blizzard, Ice Block, Pyroblast, and Archmage Antonitis. Those
13.
are all evergreen cards that are always going to be in Hearthstone. So it's a little skewed. Mage, I think, is kind of the representative class of the game. It's in the tutorial for a reason, right? And these are all really iconic, resonant Mage spells that identify not just with Blizzard properties, but with fantasy in general, right? Wizards cast fireballs and frostbolts and all that. Wizards do these things. And then you also have really powerful cards like Mana Worm, which is one of the most terrifying 1-drops the game has ever seen to this day. So, and in addition to that, Mage got some love this past set. If you look at Sveak's Secret Mage, which was the Secret Mage list that hit #1 Legend last season, I'm going to post the link in the chat, it is 30 blue cards. There is not a single non-class card here, because you throw in Babbling Book, Cabal Lackey, Arcanologist, Medivh's Valet, Primordial Glyph, Cinder's favorite card. You throw in Counterspell, Kirin Mage, which is another classic card, Cabal Crystal Runner, and Firelands Portal. Mage has a spell density critical mass combined with these efficient minions that have made it effective despite low minion count for a very long time. And as of right now, unless some changes are made in the Hall of Fame format, and I really expect Ice Block to be Hall of Famed, if they don't do something, the class is going to stay strong forever.
And
yeah, that was kind of the point behind making this list and this explanation segment, is pointing out why in like basically every meta we will see some classes like Mage or Rogue or Warrior, because like Mage's cards are just all disgusting, and like Ice Block just isn't okay.
yeah,
And if you take away Ice Block, it also removes some of these cards from the list, like Nova, Pyroblast probably. Archmage is probably still there, but it like neuters the class a little bit without like destroying it, because you still have other ways to play with the class. But it having access to like a card that you just get to pay a 3-mana investment to take an extra turn that you shouldn't be able to is kind of gross.
yeah, and just to note too, like back in the when the World of Warcraft trading card game was first released, which Hearthstone really is the spiritual successor to, their first instructional deck was Mage. Like when a retailer would get the set, like here's all the product and here's the things you can give away for free, the instructional deck was in fact a Mage, and it played very, very similarly to Mage in Hearthstone. Like I still have that deck hanging around on a shelf somewhere. So I think that who's it? Appa, that's your name. Y'all are on point, because like Mage is just kind of one of those identity classes for Hearthstone, and I think it always Jaina is everywhere, right? Like,
yeah, and I'm
that's ever gonna
totally
stop.
fine with that. But I
Yeah.
also don't think Jaina should just be like gross all the time.
No,
Well, there is another Mage hero though.
2 more.
2 more.
Yeah.
It's Medivh and Khadgar.
Sure.
Mage is a resonant fantasy trope, so I get why almost every fantasy game, card, electronic, MMO, whatever, they all have powerful, iconic Mage characters. Mage is right now is the best Mage I think has ever been, except unless you want to go back to 2-mana Frost Nova and 8-mana Pyroblast, which I really don't. But Mage right now is in a really, really good spot, and it's gotten to the point where some of the former cards that were never the biggest problem are now starting to rear their heads. I think Ice Block for a long time was never the most broken card, and the fact that we've gotten to a point where it is one of the bigger problems in the game right now is a really good indicator of the health of the game, but it also
Yeah.
indicates the card needs to go. And it's worth noting as well, we're not going to list neutrals here, but there are some quote-unquote class neutrals. If you play a warrior deck, a lot of times you have Acolyte of Pain. If you play rogue, you almost always have Gadget and Auctioneer. Blood Mage Thalnos is kind of a mage and rogue class neutral, so to speak, in that you're always going to play it. And mage in particular has always abused Alexstrasza. You can view Alexstrasza as a mage card in almost every context. It's played in other decks, and Handlock played it for a while. But yeah, it synergizes well with. I mean, the key play where you get that feeling of dread in your stomach is where they have an ice block up and they Alexstrasza you. Like, you just know you're going to die in the next 2 turns, and there's literally nothing you can do. So, the Alexstrasza effect is not innately broken, but combined with a lot of the tools Mage has to offer, it's just a little bit too synergistic when the game is kind of moving away from a combo direction in a lot of ways, or at least looking to become more interactive.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on something you said there, is that Mage was never like a problem or like the most broken deck. Like after they nerfed the free spells, but the thing is that it was always there and it was always competitive with the busted decks like throughout Hearthstone, which should say something about its power level because nothing's been nerfed from there like since. Like, it's just all the same. And like now we're like getting to see it because everything else has finally gotten nerfed, and now we're having to actually deal and see how disgusting Ice Block is. Like whenever other people can't do disgustingly broken things, and they're playing super unfair. So is Quest Rogue, but that's why both those decks kind of clash at each other.
Yeah. Well, and looking at the list of nerfs which I have open here, the cards that have been nerfed the most that have affected Mage are Lepronome and Flare, and they both got worse, which made Mage better. Because Lepronome used to be played a lot, and against Freeze Mage they had the block up. You got to play Lepronome, and it made it more difficult for them to kill you. And Flare used to cost 0, right? Or used to cost 1.
And then it costs 1.
Yeah. And so all the cards that were impacting, and Ironbeak Owl too, all the cards that impacted what Freeze Mage was trying to do, a lot of them have gotten worse. I would say the only other Mage nerf was Yogg, but that was, different. Mage has been, you're right, it's been the benefactor for a long time, but never been kind of the target. And that's a little... I imagine that if Ice Block does not rotate out with the Hall of Fame next year, I would be really, really surprised. Really, really surprised. I think it's one of 2 guaranteed cards that'll rotate out, and the other one we'll talk about when we get to Rogue.
Cool. I'll take Paladin. I played a lot of aggro Paladin early days. I played a lot of Secret Paladin. I've been getting more into Control or the token Paladin lately. So what we have here, I'll go through the list here real quick. We have Blessing of Kings, Consecration, True Silver Champion, Aldor Peacekeeper, Divine Favor, Equality, Lay of Hands, Tyrion Fordring. So some of these work so well together. Some of these take a real good advantage of the bubble paladin, like the divine shield that paladin usually gets as far as the class specific things. But yeah, a lot of these are really strong. Like obviously Tyrion Fordring, especially with the new taunt card that's out this set. Tyrion Fordring and Oppa's favorite card. Am I saying it wrong? I say Tyrion.
Well, there's Tyrion, and the one this set is Tarim, Sunkeeper Tarim.
Tarim.
Yeah. Tarim is sweet.
Yeah,
he's pretty good.
Divine Favor was really good with aggro Paladin. It was bang.
Divine Favor is exceptionally powerful, and in my humble opinion, a very poorly designed card. I have played with it. I am not too good to play with it. I don't want to give that impression, but it's one of those weird cards where it either feels backbreaking or useless, and that typically feels like kind of strange design because I have been against handlocks where I play it and draw 8, and I have also been against face hunters or zoos, and I play it and I cycle it, right? I draw 1 card, and it feels strange the card is such different outcomes.
There's very rarely like a middle ground where it's just like an AI or something.
Yeah, well, only if you prioritize. If you see your opponent is dumping their hand, you can cycle it
Yeah.
a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a really powerful card. But I don't think it's particularly healthy when it's used because it's almost always used for an arbitrage.
Yeah.
I think like
sorry.
one of
go
the
ahead.
that's all right. Yeah, like the there's in my opinion there's like 3 cornerstone cards, and they're set even above and beyond the 8 playable cards. That's True Silver Champion, just because that 4 damage on turn 4 plus healing is so important on challenging so many 4 drops and 3 drops. Tyrion is like one of the best legendaries in the game still, and Consecration is super important because it's like the first available AoE among all the classes outside of like Arcane Explosion. Like the
Yeah.
turn 4 AoE is super important.
I was going to mention too, the 2 things that of this, they have really efficient board clears and controlling cards. So like Lay on Hands, Aldor Peacekeeper, they have like a lot of answers for control types. I did want to get in the notes here that we were saying there's 6 of these cards actually mid-range or control cards, and 2 of them are more aggro cards. So yeah, just to jump in there real quick.
And before Abba takes back over, like Wild Pyromancer probably needs to be the 12th man on this team because equality.
Well, and Tyrion's gotten a lot better because they nerfed Owl, like a lot better because they nerfed Owl. But who played mid-range Paladin in vanilla?
Not me.
It
didn't exist.
See, in vanilla, like what we're talking about a lot is the base power level of the classes without help. And I think before Ungoro came out, Paladin was in a really rough spot because its base set cards, first they all cost 4. All of them cost 4. And if you ever draft a Paladin Arena deck, you just get this big block at the 4.
Yeah.
And it's all these cards are kind of clunky. They're kind of slow. You have 4 drops and 8 drops. And Aldor Peacekeeper is really powerful, but it shrinks a guy on 3, and that's kind of the first thing you're doing outside of hero powering on 2. So Paladin has been great when it's gotten the tools, and mid-range Paladin has existed in GVG and now in Ungoro, but not really much outside of that. It's a little bit in the Justicar metagame last year when Chalky won DreamHack Austin, but that was kind of the formative. What set was that? That wasn't Karazhan.
It was Whispers.
Formative Whispers, yeah. But otherwise, Paladin has kind of struggled in base set only formats and formats where Paladin doesn't get good expansion cards. It doesn't really have a strong base set despite having strong cards because they don't synergize well.
Yeah. So like the problem with Paladin as a class is like all of its cards are like good, but whenever you're trying to make a deck, say you're trying to build a slow control deck, you have 6 of these 8 cards to choose from. 2 of them are not playable in your deck. You're not going to play Blessing of Kings because you're not going to be ahead on the board. You're not going to play Divine Favor because you're going to have a bunch of cards and they probably will have less than you. So you have like 6 clunky cards to choose from, and then like the 24 other cards have to be like neutrals or like really good cards that were introduced, which is like kind of what we're trying to highlight with this list is like if your class cards are bad, then you're going to have to overcompensate in each expansion moving forward for your class to be playable, which is a problem. It's just a design issue with like classes like Paladin and like Priest, which is next.
Segue.
The problem with Priest is like so we have like 9 playables. We have 8 if we count Akanai and Circle as like one combo, like one entity, which they are. You don't play those separately. We have Holy Nova, Power Word Shield, Shadow Word Pain, Shadow Word Death, Northshire Cleric, Akanai and Circle, Thought Steal, and Cabal Shadow Priest. And you look at this list, and you're like, oh, all these cards are really good. They're all kind of control-y cards, right? Well, yes, but the problem with Priest is that it is just inherently reactive. It does nothing on its own. It has 0 threats whatsoever, which is why we're seeing Priest be good right now, because we have Shadow Visions and Divine Favor and Inner Fire. Divine Spirit.
Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, yeah.
And also Mirror the Sun Shard.
Yeah, so those make you they let you be proactive. And like that's what Priest needs. Priest has no way of being proactive, so it's just inherently at a disadvantage at the beginning of a format. Because it's just like trying to build a deck with answers to stuff that it doesn't even know exist yet.
Right. And it's you're absolutely right. Like none of these cards is itself a threat. So you can't just passively play 30 cards because at some point you have to deal 30 damage to your opponent to win. So like making a pure control deck doesn't work unless you're doing some kind of fatigue strategy, which that is another discussion entirely. Because it almost never works. Control Warrior being the one exception in the past. But yeah, like every set needs to give Priests proactive play in order for Priest to be playable. I mean, we just last year, I think it was, where Priest basically had nothing. It sat in tier 5 for basically the entire set because there was nothing.
Well, and that was around the time of the Purify hullabaloo, where it turns
True.
out Purify was secretly actually a good card. It just needed some tools to be printed, and that was the same time that Priest of the Feast came out. And that deck also secretly took a little while to get figured out, but was actually good. And that's what happens a lot in Hearthstone. Hearthstone's a hard game to figure out. And Paladin, I think we all thought the first month, everyone that wasn't Appa thought that Paladin was bad in Ungoro, and it turns out to be the best class, right? Or at least one of the best classes, right? Competitive.
Pretty
Yeah,
close.
it's like top 3 for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's up there. And Priest has historically looked real bad on paper, and a lot of the first competitive Priest decks that we saw didn't have win conditions outside of Lyra, right? That was you topped the curve at 5 and you played 29 reactive cards and won 5-mana 3/5, and the deck was good. But it's hard to figure out, and the devs have at least responded. I don't want to say, design mistake. The devs have figured out that there is disparity in power level in Classic, and they are pretty keenly aware, and I think they're making adjustments throughout. I would expect to see a lot of cards Hall of Famed from more powerful classes and some artificial balance to be instituted here. They've done a pretty good job of balancing the classes that they have now. The worst class right now is probably been the best class in Hearthstone's history overall, which is Warlock, and we'll talk about that later. So I don't mind him taking a little breather, but it's I think that there's probably some light on the horizon here. But if you look at the list of Priest cards here, there's no way to finish the game there, and that's been kind of a historical Priest issue where they need cards to survive against someone that gets to start with Mana Worm and Flame Strike in their deck.
Do you want to hit up Rogue, Hat? I was leaving that one for you.
Yes. Yes, I do. Rogue is Bay. So there are 11 there are 11 class playables here. There's Backstab, Deadly Poison, Fan of Knives, Sap, Cold Blood, Eviscerate, SI7 Agent, Preparation, Edwin Van Cleef, Blood Mage Thalnos, and Gadgetzan Auctioneer. And I know that they're neutrals, but Rogue without Gadgetzan Auctioneer is like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich without bread.
Hey man, you got Sprint?
Oh, and well, Sprint, you can sprint, right? And Sprint was around while Oil Rogue was a thing. And the thing about Rogue is difficult to evaluate in the other direction. It always looks like garbage, and it's so good all the time. And remember, before this set came out, we were worried about Rogue's power level? Do you guys remember that? When we were like, oh, Sherazin is such a bad legendary, and Mimic Pod, I don't know about that 3-mana draw 1 card twice.
Yeah.
And Vilespine Slayer, it's a 5-mana 3/4. We thought it was going to be good, and Counterfeit Coin is just a coin, and we thought that was the best Rogue card in the set. And also...
Maybe.
And also casually the 1-mana legendary that created an entirely new archetype. So Rogue is very difficult to evaluate, and the classic set is all about being tricksy, right? Like a Hobbit's. It's all about low curve and doing more than you're supposed to on your turn, and kind of cheating stuff out. And Edwin Van Cleef is probably the best legendary in Classic. I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's just so powerful early on. And Gadgetzan Auctioneer needs to get Hall of Fame this year. It needs to happen. Time to go. It used to cost 5, and that was disgusting. And then they made it 6. And it's still really, really, really good. And the effect is just not super healthy to constantly exist in the game. And Rogue is playable without it. It's just there's no reason to play that class. without going Miracle unless you don't have the option to go Miracle, because Water Rogue was really good for a while. There have been Tempo Rogue decks for a long time. Cold Blood is a better card than it looks. You can play things like Defias Ringleader if you're going low curve. There are a lot of cards that are fringe playable that you can make quite good if you have the right shell for it, but the Miracle playstyle is so powerful that it is very difficult to justify not playing it.
And like spotlight dance on preparation, because honestly, if you don't have preparation, you're probably not making any rogue decks. It's that important to the class, I think.
Yeah, well, it's some of the
like
Tempo Rogue and
Innervate
Water
for-
Rogue. Yeah, it's better than Innervate in the decks where it's good.
Yeah.
But in the Water Rogue and Tempo Rogue lists that you actually were able to get by with not playing it, it's
Just because you had like such a mass of minions that like
yeah.
it would be dead a lot of the time.
And that means the card is really powerful, but I think well designed, because it's not an auto include like Innervate is, where Innervate, if you start a Druid deck and you don't click Innervate first, you misbuilt your deck. But there are decks where it's correct in Rogue to not include preparation. So
True.
it's still really, really powerful, and it interacts with broken cards in a really broken way. And I think prepping out the Crystal Core is still one of the more unpleasant interactions in the current standard. That's how I'm going to phrase it. But
Also true facts.
yeah, but and Blood Mage Thalnos has been in Rogue decks for as long as Rogue decks have existed. I think that there will be a world without Gadget and Auctioneer where Rogue has some opportunity, but it does need some more cards, because if you look at this list outside of SI7 and Edwin, Cold Blood is kind of a win condition, but you need some way to hit them, and Defias Ringleader is better than it seems, but it's not enough to finish the game. But still, you look at Rogue's historical arena performance, there's a reason it's been good forever in arenas, because the class is inherently tempo based, and tempo wins games.
Yeah.
And also because the hero power affects the board, which is incredibly important in arena.
Also true.
So what would you think about, instead of rotating Gadgets and Auctioneer, making it a legendary? My thought with that is like your deck gets like less consistent, but I can see a counter argument to that. It's like when you draw it, your win percentage skyrockets.
Yeah, I want the game to be less swingy based on, like, you're turning Gadgetan into Reno, and remember how bad it was when they drew Reno? Like, yeah, I can see the PTSD on your face. I think you could limit the number of draws, but I want the card to still exist in Wild. It's cycling through your deck is super fun. Having those miracle turns is really, really fun and very thought-provoking and difficult and rewarding, but it's not fun for the person on the other side. So
yeah,
I want it to still exist as it stands, and that's why I rather Hall of Fame than a nerf, because the cards as they stand are an important part of Hearthstone's history and are a lot of fun to play with. It's just that when you see the same stuff for a couple years, or since the game has existed, because Miracle Rogue used to be so much better when Leroy cost 4 and Gadget cost 5, it's time for Standard to have a different kind of strategy, which is why I didn't cry when Force got nerfed, and why I think Gadgetan and Ice Block both need to take a breather and retire to Wild, where they can compete with other strategies on a similar power level.
Yeah.
I heard Appa's real good at Shaman.
Yeah.
Pretty decent. I'm okay at the class.
What's up with Shaman?
So Shaman has 8 playables. We got Bloodlust. Sorry. Oh. Yeah, we got Bloodlust, Hex, Fire Elemental, Flame Tongue Totem, Lightning Bolt, Feral Spirit, Lightning Storm, Manatide Totem. We have some other cards like Farsight, Earth Elemental, and like Ancestral Spirit, but like those aren't really like considered common playables. Those are like fringe archetype cards. So these are like the cards you'll see most often in like most Shaman decks. The important thing to note here is that these cards make you want to play a mid-range archetype. Like every single one of these cards wants to play mid-range, but you also have 0. I'm counting 0 early minions. Your first 2 turns are going to be pass, hero power, and then like maybe land a Manatide Totem, and then it's just gonna die. It's gonna be 3 mana, draw a card.
Which is bad.
Yeah, it's not good. Or you're gonna overload yourself Feral Spirit. which is why Shaman got so powerful whenever Tunnel Trog and like Totem Golem were printed, because they let you fight for the early board, and their mid-range cards are so powerful that like whenever early Shaman cards are printed, it's kind of not okay. So the class is like pigeonholed almost completely into mid-range, has no early minions. So that means for the class to be playable with these cards, it has to be overcompensated for in the sets that are released, which is how you end up with Karazhan mid-range Shaman with Spirit Claws. Because it got overcompensated for super hard.
Yeah,
and it just turned out to be super disgusting.
Well, that deck got compensated for about 4 sets in a row, right?
Yeah.
Totem Golem into Tunnel Trog into and
Well,
Thunder
Totem
Bluff Valiant.
Golem plus
Thunder Bluff.
Thunder Bluff
Yeah.
plus 3 mana card, the Bring Some Fish.
Oh, a Tuskar.
Oh, Tuskar Totemic.
Tuskar
Oh god,
Totemic.
he was wiped
Yeah.
from my memory banks. Oh man. Oh, now I'm tilted.
I still remember like Hoy going on tilt for the first time in his life after
yeah.
ties like 8 times in the series, like rolled a Totem Golem
Yeah.
off
Rolled
of the
Totem Golem
Totemic. Oh,
every time.
I forgot. And the thing about Shaman, Appa, did you play mid-range Shaman vanilla?
I started playing back into Grand Tournament.
Okay. So vanilla, the best early game play is coin totem, so you can turn 2 flame tongue. That was what Shaman used to do. So
Rough.
that should tell you a lot about the nature of the class, and it feels so weird now to be talking about how weak Shaman is because we've all been terrorized by it for about a year-ish. But and I think you could make the argument for Doomhammer and Alakir to appear in this list. But
Yeah, the thing with them is like Doomhammer like took a big nerf
yeah.
when Rockbiter like stopped existing. Like it's still a fine card to put in your mid-range decks as like a one of if like the metagame has like Zoo in it. But that's like metagame dependent. Alakir's fine, yeah, but he also doesn't go into like just most Shaman decks, which is like what I was trying to put this list more towards. Is like if
That's
you're
fair.
building Shaman, like these are what you're looking at, like at first glance.
Yeah, I think you can like start with Hex and Flame Tongue, and everything else is negotiable. Like
Lightning
Hex,
Storm probably.
and yeah, like well, and I think Lightning Bolt. I think Lightning Bolt is probably the best like just spot removal in the game,
Mhm.
and Hex is just the best removal. Period.
Yeah.
Like 3 mana, transform it, so good.
Lightning Bolt is probably the most efficient overall.
Most
I'd
efficient,
probably
yeah.
make the argument for Frostbolt over Lightning Bolt because they both
Okay.
cost 2 mana. It's just one you pay for
No,
later.
Lightning Bolt. Oh yeah, but I mean, being able to if you can backload mana. I mean, we saw what backloading mana could do when Tunnel Trog was around.
With
So-
Lightning Bolt, it's weird because you usually actually want to be on the coin.
Yeah.
Because you want them to play something first, and then you want to zap it. Then you want to be able to like coin something out on like turn 2 or like turn 3, and because like if you're going first, then you just hold a Lightning Bolt that does nothing. Then you do that on turn 2, and then you're overloaded on 3, and you're like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with 2 mana. Hero power, I guess.
Hero power. And ultimately, a lot of the core problems with Shaman revolve around the fact that Overload is in Classic. They did not have it figured out yet. They figured out how to balance Overload. Volcano, I think, is probably the best balanced Overload card.
God,
in
I
the
love
game.
Volcano so much.
It's really well designed, and the Overload 2 on it makes sense. It's a consequence, but Totem Golem didn't have enough consequence. Tunnel Trog abused the mechanic, and something like Elemental Destruction was fine, maybe a little bit overreaching because Lava Shock and Eternal Sentinel exist at the same time. But
And Halazeal.
And Halazeal, yes. But I think Volcano is probably the example to indicate they figured it out. But you look at cards like Crackle, you look at Feral Spirit, ultimately, without Tunnel Trog, it's not really a great card.
No, Feral Spirit's completely fine. I think it's actually well designed because you're paying
5 mana.
You're paying 5 mana for 2/2/3s with taunt, which is fine.
Yeah.
'Cause both of them on their own cost 2, which is like it's fine. It's a little bit
It's to getting them both out
or
on turn 3.
undercosted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then after that, like you actually get punished kind of hard for the overload for the next turn. So like, like without the tunnel trog abusing it, it's like think it's a fine card. I didn't play in vanilla, but I have watched the entire World's playoffs for 2014.
Oh, Firebat.
Yeah, the one Firebat one. And I saw a lot of people playing Shaman, and they played like a mid-rangey control Shaman deck with like Urshocks and stuff. One of the plays I saw that the casters were like, "Oh, this play's awesome," is somebody like coined out a Manatide Totem on turn 2, and it was like the nuts. It was like the best thing you could do with the deck, and I was like, "Holy crap!"
Wow,
That's
really?
so sad.
It just
And
like
that's
you
like
were
that's
hoping
like
to
what you're
Arcane
working
Intellect.
with.
Yeah.
That's like what you're working with Basic and Classic is best possible coining out a Manatide on 2.
Yeah.
Let's bring this card back into the view. I just want to hear your guys' response to this. What about Crackle?
Oh, goodness.
It's
yeah.
You mean the
That
card
is
that
a-
was at worst Frostbolt?
Yes.
And at best, a 2-mana fireball
Yes.
or higher. Like if you had a spell damage totem
Spell
out, it
minions,
was 7
even.
damage. Oh,
Yeah.
I've won quite a few games where my opponent was at 7. I had a
Oh,
very small
God.
percentage to win that game. I got a friend request afterwards.
it's no, you got a request. I wouldn't say there was anything friendly about it. Yes.
yeah. I'll be happy. Like I accept randomness as part of the game because it is a card game. But when my random card also has a random effect that I have to roll for to see if it's good or bad, those probably need to stop being made. And they haven't, thankfully, for the most part. But yeah.
Sorry to interject some card that's like not related to the talk in any
Well,
way.
that's
Just
kind
like,
of related,
I started
right?
thinking about Lightning Bolt, and I was like, man, what was better than Lightning Bolt was that
No,
card.
Crack was absolutely disgusting. Unless you played against Imp Gang Boss, and it was the worst card ever because
Oh,
it
yeah.
hit for 3 and you conceded.
It's
Yeah.
and it's worth noting, right? We try to maintain a positive attitude here in the cast. We're not trying to crap on any previous designs. Like all these designs, all these mistakes, and all these choices that Blizzard has made has kind of made the game what it is, which is in a really healthy state right now. But it's important to be able to recognize both the game's past and current flaws. And also, we all have a lot of memories playing in these times where things weren't as good as they are now. And it's worth remembering there was a time when you would coin out a 3-drop and get 6/6 in power, right? That just it wasn't fair, it wasn't right. So remembering that, or remembering that Crackle was sometimes 2 mana deal 3 and 2 mana deal 7 in the same card, it's all these. We need to create some kind of context for what the game has done in the past and what we need it to do in the future to maintain health long term. Because this is all coming from a place of hope and awareness as to what we're dealing with here. I want to make sure that we don't sound too negative on the cast because we're not looking to paint that picture at all.
Well said.
No.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah, like this, we don't have Crackles anymore. They're making progress.
Yeah. And you know what? Thank goodness.
Like the worst we have is Ice Block, which is still
That's
a
a good
busted
place to
card.
be.
Like the worst we have is Ice Block and Innervate, and they're still super busted. But like if that's where we're at, like Hearthstone's in a great place.
Yeah.
I agree. Who does Warlock?
I have 1,000 Warlock wins. I can talk about Warlock.
I have like
I have like
600, most
Yeah.
of them being Zoo.
There you go.
So.
Yeah, I'm super
Take it.
Zoo. Well, Kenny, I thought you played Zoo a lot too, right?
I played Paladin more than I played Zoo.
Okay. I'm gonna make you talk about Warrior. That's my concession.
How's Cinder not going to talk about Warrior?
Yeah, I can
we'll
talk
have
about
Cinder do
Warrior.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll let Cinder take it.
Okay. Well, Warlock. So Warlock, and here's the thing: there are 9 playable cards here. The best thing about Warlock is the hero power, and it's important noting before I even read about the cards that if you are in a Warlock strategy that can leverage the hero power, which is just having more cards than your opponent, then you can yield it in a lot of different directions because Life Tap is by far the strongest and least balanced hero power, and the fact that the class is not good right now is nothing short of insane because I think this is the worst Warlock has ever been, and Zoo has been Firebat said Zoo has been tier 1 since day 1 because you trade, you have stuff, they don't, you have double the cards, you play more of them. It breaks one of the fundamental rules of the game, and it's really powerful. How many times have we all played against Zoo and you go card for card with them, and then they're like, okay, I'm going to draw 2, you draw 1, let's see how this game goes. So you look at, you've got your control cards, half of them are control-y. You got Hellfire, you got Mortal Coil, you have Voidwalker is kind of both. You have Shadow Flame, Siphon Soul, and you have Lord Jaraxxus, one of my favorites. And these are all really powerful, slower control cards that allow you to kind of create card advantage. And Lord Jaraxxus is a powerful win condition by himself. But then you also have really aggressive cards: Soulfire, Voidwalker, Flame Imp, Doomguard. And what's interesting about Warlock is because you have life tap, you can play more lower quality cards that are cheap, and you can make pretty much any neutral good. The deck played Shield Bearer for a while. Leper Gnome and Abusive Sergeant were all in these decks. Argent Squire is great in Zoo. You are able to take
like
advantage.
Young Priestess.
Yeah, Young Priestess was around for a while. That was one of my first crafts. Back when I first made Vanilla Zoo, Young Priestess was really, really good because the 1-mana 2/1 that made your stuff annoying. So, because the hero power allows you to transform brute force application of cards, Warlock has to struggle to not be good. Because having more cards than your opponent, if all cards are in equal power level, is almost always unbalanced. So, half these cards lean towards a control strategy, half these cards lean towards an aggro strategy. If you're playing Handlock, then you have Mountain Giant and Twilight Drake as well, which are pretty core neutral Warlock cards. But, it's the class is generally designed in a way that it can flourish on very little. And it's only that every other class got reasonably powerful cards that Warlock, not being powered up the way we thought it was going to be, or at least not on a comparable level, is struggling right now.
Good job. Anything else you want to add, Appa?
Not really, honestly.
Okay.
Nailed
We
it.
can move on. Nailed it.
Played 1,000
Last
games with that class.
one. Yeah, right. Warrior, my other love aside from Hunter. So Warrior's Evergreen package is mostly control, but you'll hear some aggressive elements, not too dissimilar from Warlock. So Arcanite Reaper, which is super relevant so long as there are weapon synergies, because it's 5 mana, 10 damage. That's good. Execute, Fiery War Axe, Shield Block, Kor'kron Elite, Slam, Armor Smith, Frothing Berserker, Brawl, Gorehowl, Shield Slam, and Grommash Hellscream. So there's like two themes going on with Warrior. You either have really, really efficient removal plus armor gain and card draw, or you have very efficient damage output. Arcanite Reaper, Kor'kron Elite, Frothing Berserker. Scalable minions are usually very strong minions because you can build strategies around them. Mana Worm, Tunnel Trog, Questing Adventurer, Edwin Van Cleef. Frothing Berserker is in that same class of scalable minion. And then Grommash is like straddling both worlds. He's an efficient removal card because he hits something for 4 damage and then presents a huge threat. Or you can just trigger him with a damage effect on turn 9 or 10, and he deals 10 to 12 damage to face. He's a great finisher. So like you'll always see, and like special mention has to be paid to Fiery War Axe because it is so unbelievably good as a card. 2 mana, deal 3 twice at the expense of a little bit of health, which Warrior is really great at regaining later on in the game. Last year, Vicious Syndicate did a data analysis on the efficacy of Fiery War Axe and found that the win percentage for any Warrior deck, if they don't get their War Axe in their opening hand, is drastically lower than it is if they do. And that gets highlighted when you play Taunt Warrior because half the time it's correct to throw away your quest against aggressive strategies, specifically to try and draw Fiery War Axe. It's that important of a card. So Fiery War Axe is always going to be a Warrior card, and it's probably going to be in every single Warrior deck until the end of time. So you're always going to see weapons and like removal strategies being part of Warrior's profile. So yeah, like the reason Pirate Warrior is a thing right now is because of weapon synergies. So the Warrior is always going to be that class, I think, that lives in both worlds of either hyper aggression or hyper control. And I'm glad for both, honestly. Warrior, I like any class that has diverse archetypes because it makes the meta in the game more interesting.
Flexibility and guess, it keeps you guessing on what you're going to be playing against.
Exactly.
Initially.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the classic set is so good for Warrior, but the arena performance has historically been very poor until they add cards, because a lot of these are reactive and the hero power is really terrible in arena. really, really
Right.
bad. So a lot of these cards just you can't really draft a brawl deck around or an arena deck around brawl, right? Like that card just doesn't generally work with tempo out minions. And so with the way that arena is now, the class might be better, but as it stood, this was historically the worst arena class.
Appa?
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, the only thing I would really have to add to it is like, even though you have like Frothing and Korkron and like Arcanite Reaper, it also just like doesn't have like any other aggro elements. I mean, like those are good cards. Like Frothing's the best one of the three. I think Korkron being second, Arcanite being third. But other than that, like it's not inherently an aggro package. It's like just like good minions and like a solid weapon. So like to make an aggressive warrior deck, it needs to be overcompensated for in expansions, which is what they did. 2 expansions in a row. That's why we have busted aggro decks like Pirate Warrior.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and there are some cards not listed here as well that are more synergistic but not first pass warrior cards. I think in
Like
particular,
Dread Corsair.
well, it's Whirlwind, Battle Rage, and Cruel
Gotcha.
Taskmaster are
Yeah,
all
yeah.
3 very strong cards, and they Battle Rage when it's good, it's very very good, and the 13th warrior card is Acolyte of Pain because that's in a lot of tempo warrior decks as well, and
Yep.
being able to abuse the 1 damage effect. There are lots of ways to do that that kind of expand your card pool. Unfortunately, they remove charge. Well, not unfortunately, but for better or worse, they remove charge from the game effectively because you used to be able to make kind of a cycle heavy warrior deck because it has a secretly huge amount of card draw. And Battle Rage, when it's good, feels worse than Divine Favor.
All right, cool. Good segment. I'm gonna hit this off and say we've hit our max here. We're gonna skip emails and questions for next week. And yeah, if you'd like to add more questions for next week, just write in to coinconcede@gmail.com. We have our Discord channel specifically for questions, which is questions for the cast. And you can leave comments on the website. Just get in contact with us. We'll go over those in just a moment. Well, I haven't been talking a lot. I'll cover it then. So thanks to Stefan L. for letting us use his cover. You can check out his channel, which is linked on our show notes. You can find that at coinconcede.com. Twitter's at coinconcede. Facebook is /coinconcede. Discord.coinconcede.com gets you directly to our Discord as an invite. And you can check our gear and stuff over at shop.coinconcede.com. I think we'll be adding one soon. Is that right, Cinder?
Yeah, I found out that I get to do a month of traction with the physical therapist, so I've been a little off the horse on graphic design. But yeah, well, I will make it up. If I can't do it this month, you'll get 2 next month.
Reason why I asked because we want to make sure we have something.
Viriatus gets his.
Viriatus, yes.
Yes.
And he gets our mug for the raffle too.
He will be taken care of one way or the
Yes.
other.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting to do both at the same time just to get use out of the shipping. But yeah, so big thanks to Viriatus. He's going to be a big help, I assume, also in the tournament that's upcoming.
Oh yeah, I'll tap him. I might even get him to cast because he got really good feedback when he was sitting in with us. So maybe I'll get him on the mic on some casting too. That might be fun.
Perfect. All right, shout outs for this week. We'll start with Appa.
I actually played against somebody on stream earlier, who beat me in a priest mirror. He's playing Quest Nazoth, like Highlander priest. I was playing Yagut's control priest, and he just destroyed me because he played like Cairn and Cabal Shadow priest, and I couldn't beat them.
That'll happen.
But he added me after the game, and I was like, okay, here it goes. Here's just gonna rub it in my face, and he was like, hey, are you the guy from the podcast? And I was like, I co-host on Coin Concede, if that's what you're referring to. And he was like, I wrote down what he said. He said, I listen to you guys all the time. Great show. You and Hat have taught me a lot. Great analysis.
Aw.
So
Nice.
shout out to NimSum0.
Nice. All right, cool. I like stories like that. Cinder, you got any stories like that?
No, but because I've had enough bad experiences on hate ads that I don't add people anymore. So please, if you like our show and you just want to say hi, come to the Discord first and say, hey, I want to add you on Battle.net. Can I do that? 98% of the time we're going to say yes, or at least keep you in the Discord.
And then we can add a note to make sure we don't like get rid of you. Like, who's this person?
But for my shout outs, I want to say thank you to Game Over Video Games from Austin, Texas. I saw them at DreamHack. I bought a game from them. It didn't work. They replaced it, no cost. The customer service was amazing, so thank you so much. I wanted to mention you specifically on the air for that. And Southern Esports League is my other shout out. They are an esports organization starting right here in Louisiana, a little bit west of Thunder Bluff. But they are putting together teams for competitive games, including Hearthstone. So if you're in the South or in the U.S. or heck, even in the world, and you want to have a little touchstone down here to Thunder Bluff, look up Southern Esports League. They will be putting some esports stuff together in the very near future. I might even have them on the show if y'all let me. It'd be kind of cool to have an upstart esports org on the show. That'd be a neat interview.
Great. And Hat.
I would like to give my shout out to two fantastic gentlemen. One is Andrew is Living, and one is Wicked Good, aka Steve Lubitz. There's some good guys, and I happen to be on a podcast on the Happy Hearthstone, friends of the show, of course. And
Yes.
we talked about. You may have noticed I like to talk about Hearthstone a lot at length. And Steve, I may have met my match with him, and Andrew is a fantastic host. And we talked about ladder anxiety and legend, hitting legend, and the mindset that you need to get there. And it was a solid 2-hour discussion that I feel really went better than I expected, and I had high hopes to begin with. So they both were, it's when you get 3 podcasters together in a room, we do this every week. We all kind of have an idea of how to bounce ideas off each other, and getting the new voices in the room that I wasn't used to talking to outside of text, combined with a topic that was near and dear to all of our hearts, I was really happy with how it came together, and they could not have been more gracious hosts or better compatriots in putting it together. So I'm really appreciative for the opportunity to be over there in the Happy Hearthstone.
Yeah, I would be excited to hear that. I love those guys. I have a couple of shout outs I'd like to mention. I'm kind of notating here. First one always goes to our Twitch, those that joined us live on Twitch. I'll go over those that are still here first. So we have Arctic Chill. I'll leave out numbers and stuff. Chris Lickness, Drunken Monk, Fagwint, Iona Kita, Master Wu, Miss Tay Tay, Taylor Eve. We have Drunken Monk. I already said that. Mike Psych Mopko. I always want to say it the right way. Sloviticus, we from our Discord. Master Wu. Am I missing anybody, guys? I know you guys are talking.
No.
Yeah.
But to note, Brosky, yeah.
King Salt.
King Salt. And Chris is going to be joining me at the Tavern Hero qualifier this weekend. That's going to be super fun.
Oh, nice. And Scavin.
Yeah, Scavin was in there. Woo.
Cool. And the second one is going to be to my fellow co-hosts, Hat and Cinder, for helping me with just making our patron coaching session, like Excel sheet, just masterful for behind the scenes. Like, it was
I got back
help.
and I looked at it and I was like, this is amazing. This is wonderful.
Yes.
It's full of stars.
Yeah, think of that and then 10 times for me, because it's like less work for me.
Yeah.
So,
I'm all about doing less work.
Yeah.
yes.
Well, and it turns out that Kenny basically does everything behind the scenes. He pulls all the levers and he hangs all the lights and so on and so forth. So whatever we can do to automate a little bit of his time so that he can go back to being baseball dad, it's
baseball's over.
Oh,
we won. Did I announce
Yay!
that?
Oh,
We won championships.
no. Okay.
Oh.
So you see, we automated the spreadsheet, and then Kenny wins the championships. I'm not saying it's.
I did mention that last time, though.
But you mentioned you were in the finals. I didn't hear that you were the victors.
Oh, I mentioned in Discord. That's what it was. We won 16-2.
Jeez.
So it was.
Wow. I feel bad for the other team, but feel good for your team. So, but yeah, anything we can do to help out, we want to make sure that we're here for Kenny, because Kenny's always here for us.
I try to be anytime I can. I try to, if I can't update some of the stuff because I'm just mobile. I can't do add people who wrote in like Jacob. I got to do after the show here. He just wrote into us, so I can add his information to the data spreadsheet. I try to copy it and at least send it to the others so they can add it. We've got this cool little man. It's so much. It's like a nice, well-oiled machine now. Like everything, and I think it shows with people's obviously with the iTunes review. You know, just they recognize it. I think people are starting to recognize how well we work together. I mean, people may think that I do the Twitch, but Ridiculous Hat does it, and I'm just commenting as Coin Concede in the chat. So it's a little of us do a little bit of everything, and I really do appreciate my co-hosts. So that's my shout out.
I'll stop.
Yep. All right.
You guys.
So let's go the opposite way. I'm going to go first here this time. So you can follow me on Twitter at AKCCO_gamer and Twitch when I get on there, if I get on there. And it's the same. What about you, Cinder?
Twitter and Twitch, both the same. Sender Ascendant. Come watch me put GIFs at people on Twitter and do Heavy Metal Hearthstone on Saturday night and retro gaming on Saturday afternoon. Come on, I'm like powering through Lufia and the Fortress of Doom. It's a good game. Come watch it.
You mean GIFs, right? Okay,
we're not having that discussion.
Okay,
we're not going down that road.
Oh boy.
Appa, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter at CycloneAppa or on Twitch at twitch.tv/AppaHS. Just hit 108 followers today on stream.
Wow.
So I'm going to be like really pushing hard to meet the criteria for the affiliate program pretty soon.
Same.
So, yep.
Nice. How's the affiliate program going for you, Ridiculous Hat?
Well, you can cash out when you hit $100, and I think I have 7. So
Nice.
it's
Getting there.
I have more money than I did when I started the affiliate program. So far it has been a net profit.
You are more than 5% of the way there.
Yeah, it's
I'm so proud of you.
That's true. That's a true statement. And unfortunately, lately I've had difficulty hitting my Twitch targets of just when I want to stream. I missed this past Monday. Last week, both my streams were delayed. We're going to try really hard to stay with it, but I'm doing this new thing where I'm trying to get at least 6 hours of sleep a night, and that means I have to give up a surprising amount of my life, which probably means I was a little bit overburdened to begin with. So I'm going to attempt to stick with my current stream schedule, right? I want to keep doing it, and especially because I don't know what it is, if it's the streaming or if it's the Twittering, where you can find me at Twitter at Ridiculous Hat. I have 799 followers right now on Twitter, which is just bonkers.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're on the quest to 1,000, and that means I got to make some content. So feel free to follow me on Twitter at Ridiculous Hat. We're on our journey, and I want to hit 1,000. I want to get there. Can't do it without you, literally.
Awesome. I'll follow you. Oh no, I already am. So
You've already done your part,
really
gentlemen.
all right. So that pretty much does it. We've gone a little bit long, but that's a wrap. So I'm gonna leave you with keep calm and chive on. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
You have bested.
I choose death.
You win this one.
I concede.
You win this time.
Well fought. I concede. You win this one, friend.
The victory is yours.
I do.